Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, gaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. This is live stream 1236. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual. Just hanging around talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. Usually I will take a first look at a game, which is what we're doing tonight. Every once in a while, I'll devote the show to a topic related to our hobby. And every blue moon, I'll just do the news and then chew the fat with chat. But tonight, we are going to take a first look at the upcoming Untamed Worlds from Osprey Games. This is a role-playing game in which the players take on the roles of uplifted animals, which are sent off into the, I was going to say, the emptiness of space, but it's not really empty because I think they're protecting like humanity's colonies and stuff like that. Could be kind of cool, kind of interesting. I always like the concept of the uplifted animals, making them, intelligent and sentient. Well, they already are sentient, but making them more on a human intelligence scale. Always got a kick out of that kind of stuff. So pretty sweet. If you are tuning in to check out this first look, do want to let you know we always tackle the tabletop gaming news first around here. So it's probably going to be 35, maybe 40 minutes before we get on into that live first look. So if you're watching live, kick back, relax, just put your feet up. We'll get to it. Don't worry. If you're watching this after the fact, maybe even on Memorex, there will be timestamps. They are down in the show notes. And you can jump past the news if you want. You can get right on into that first look. And of course, depending on the device you happen to be watching this on, the timestamps might be right there in the timeline of the video. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. You do have to be a subscriber to the channel for at least 60 minutes before you can take part in chat. It's one of the ways I keep the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you have been a subscriber for at least an hour and you want to say howdy, maybe got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate is the evil and vile, the madman from Detroit area. My ass is still stinging from that shellacking the Bears got from the Lions, which I predicted before the game even started. I said to my dad, I said, you watch. I said, the Bears are going to get, those were my exact words, Bears are going to get shellacked. And they certainly did. Yeah. Must be nice to be able to root for, be in a city where you get to root for teams that win all the time. Although, got to be honest, New York teams can be disappointing. How it goes. That's how it goes. I'm just kidding. The Madman's a good friend of the show. We also have DB, Semper Buffo. Sarah D is poking on out from the shadows to say hello. The Madman and Sarah D are our chat moderators. Of course, the Madman is evil and vile from Detroit, or the Detroit area, I should say, whereas it is the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D. Shadow Donald's with us, as is Wallona's Cave. Let's see who else we got here. Mike is hanging with the gang. So is Game Cat. Chris Lundgren is chiming in. We've got Captain Infinity, Time Travel Police, and Roger Perdome. I think I've said hello to everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. J Man is also with us. So welcome aboard, everyone. Let's dive right on into the news, because arriving in November from Paizo Inc. is the Starfinder 2nd Edition Alien Core. Here's what I know. Battles in outer space or on distant planets need aliens. Inside Starfinder Alien Core, you'll find over 200 creatures, including science fantasy favorites like robots. I don't know if that's science fantasy, that's science fiction. Spacefaring Fae, that would be science fantasy. And all new dragons, alien beasts from friendly spider-like amphathnids to fearsome plant-like predator Sarix, and unique monsters that threaten the galaxy of Starfinder like Jinsel troopers and vicious swarm subspecies. You'll also find legacy Pathfinder creatures with a science fiction update, like nanite-infused Algolthus, and Starfinder classics like Akatis and Laser Wolves. These creatures cover all levels of play, from scavenging slug-like diathas to powerful drift-dwelling spectra. Starfinder Alien Core is the only book GMs need to add enemies and allies of all sorts to their Starfinder 2nd Edition game, providing enough aliens of all power levels and thematic niches to populate countless worlds. And since Starfinder 2nd Edition is fully compatible with Pathfinder 2nd Edition, every alien presented in this massive tome can actually pull double duty in Pathfinder campaigns with next to no adjustment. This Alien Core includes over 200 individual alien write-ups, including common foes like glitch-spawning gremlins, robots programmed for assassination, and mindless cybernetic zombies, to unique creatures that can threaten even the most experienced interstellar explorers, such as Akaton's dreaded Illuminatula and the giant Castrovillian ooze known as the Terror of Ukalam. Gotta love all these names just flying out of somebody's imagination. I guarantee these people never pronounce any of these words out loud. They just leave it for suckers like me to have to read cell sheet info like this. 4 science fantasy dragons are included, giving a new spin to adventure fantasy's oldest foes, representing the 4 magical traditions. Whether it's the divine cosmic dragon or primal host dragon, these beasts are sure to make a memorable experience with every encounter. New additions to classic RPG creature families like angels, devils, trolls, and giant worms. Representative combatants from some of Starfinder setting's most iconic organizations, including the Aslanti Star Empire's Aeon Guards, the Imperious Hell Knights, nature-loving Xeno Wardens, the undead crew of the infamous Corpse Fleets, and more. Simple creature adjustments that allow you to customize a monster, tuning its power level or theme with just a few simple alterations. Dial up the tech level of fantasy creatures or the magical nature of scientific anomalies and keep your players on their toes. And there's hundreds of beautiful full-color creature illustrations, too. This 224-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $64.99 when it arrives in early November. It's looking like pre-orders will open sometime in October for this. So that is something. I do not have a PDF price. I'll take a guess. we are probably looking at $19.99 because that is the PDF price we tend to see for the core releases from Paizo Inc. for Starfinder and Pathfinder. So that would be my wild guess. So let's see. The Madman says, I'm still not used to the lions and the word win being used in the same sentence. Yes, I can understand that. I certainly do understand that. I mean, there was a time where they used to talk about how the Lions hadn't won a playoff game since Bobby Lane was their quarterback in the 50s. It was like 1957. Of course, that's changed, but I'm just saying. Oh, there's some talk about hockey as well. Yes, the poor Toronto fans. Yeah. Toronto and Montreal used to be the creme de la creme of the NHL when I was a little kid. Not so much anymore. Montreal kind of comes and goes. Toronto's always choking for whatever reason. So there you go. Roger Predome's talking about Le Habs, the Canadians. Very cool. All right. I will have my review of the GM Core for Starfinder 2nd Edition shortly. I was a little bit busy. You might have noticed I've got 2 new reviews that popped up. I'll talk about those once we wrap up with the news. Moving right along, currently up on Kickstarter for EN Publishing is the What's Old is New bestiary. Here's the scoop. Monsters, aliens, critters, foes. I was so tempted to just be like, lions and tigers and bears, oh my! Whatever you call them, a bestiary populates your game world with all manner of beings, both benevolent and malevolent, for your characters to interact with, whether that be fight, parlay, or flee. From the mightiest of dragons to the tiniest of woodland beasts, and from killer robots to sentient energy-sucking clouds, this book contains the game statistics for a plethora of fantasy, modern, and science fiction creatures for the What's Old is New role-playing game. This 350-page full-color hardcover contains everything you need to populate your worlds with monsters and NPCs. The first chapter is the introduction. How to read stat blocks and run monsters is included in that, while the next chapter includes nearly 150 critters, including animals, robots, dragons, demons, and aliens, to challenge your heroes. Then we'll move on to NPCs, with nearly 100 NPCs, including assassins, cultists, knights, ninjas, spies, and wizards, to serve as ally or foe. We'll have Chapter 4, Customizing Monsters, teaching you how to use simple templates to increase or decrease the power of monsters, from minions up to paragons, or give them new features by choosing a monster career. And it'll wrap up with a chapter devoted to creating your own monsters, where you'll get to design a monster from scratch. This Kickstarter project is fully funded. You can reserve a copy of the 350-page hardcover with PDF, as well as virtual tabletop token goodies, for a pledge of approximately $69, because EN Publishing is across the pond. If you want to just grab the PDF, also with, I believe it's also with the virtual tabletop goodies, you can do so for a pledge of approximately $26 through October 16th. Expected delivery for the PDFs, or PDF singular, is actually next month. What? So this is done. As far as I can see, this is finished. This is a crowdfunding project, which is just looking to get an idea how big is the print run. That's how I look at this. Now, the physical book is going to arrive. Well, it's slated to arrive in February. So like I said, this should be finished. I also want to mention there are pledge levels which will get you the what is old is new, or what's old is new role-playing game, which I believe is in a box set. And there are no tariffs on those other items as additional add-on pledge levels, because those things are already in the US. They're already produced. So there is that. I actually shot an email back to the press contact at EN Publishing, who I've gone back and forth with a little bit over the years. And sadly, EN Publishing, they don't really send out physical review copies of stuff for reviews. It's just, PDFs and stuff like that, which I don't tackle. So I did shoot an email back and say, hey, if EN Publishing ever decides that they'd like to send out, review copies, which are, physical copies, so you can shoot video with them, keep me in mind, because I would be interested in checking out Level Up. Oh, and of course, Wine. What is old is new. Doubt if anything's going to happen with that. Right, so a lot of hockey talk. Interesting. I am a Blackhawks fan. If you have watched the Dispatch during the winter into early spring, I'll bust out a Blackhawks jersey from time to time. I did not for a while because of the situation they had with that minor league player. Yeah, I was pissed, but none of those people are still with the Hawks. So I was like, okay, it's back to rooting for the Blackhawks, even though they're awful. So there is that. On our next news piece, Raging Swan Press has teamed with Bundle of Holding for a special offer on the Dread Lyranomicon. Here's the deets on the deal. Game Master. If you lack time to create the cool details that enliven your tabletop role-playing game adventures and dungeons, the Dread Lyranomicon system-neutral sourcebook from Raging Swan Press lets you easily add depth and color to your game's monstrous hideouts. This 217-page compilation of Raging Swan's Monstrous Layers series presents 100 layer entries in 2 succinct pages apiece, from Aboleth's Sunken Lair to a Wyvern's Nest. Each entry has 7 tables that determine the layer's unique features, surroundings, and treasure. Use these lists before or during your game to breathe. Maybe that's what I should be doing. There we go. Use these lists before or during your game to breathe life into your descriptions and help your players immerse themselves in the world. Just pay $7.95 for the complete Dread Lyranomicon sourcebook, which has a retail price of $21.50. You'll also get the free Dread Companion. These savings will run through October 6th. Once again, important to point out, this is system neutral, so you are not looking at having to convert stats or anything like that. It is essentially, from what I can see, providing color to the layer, writing additional detail, giving you some ideas as a game master what you could be presenting to your players. That's essentially what this series is all about. Kunfasa and Shazama85 are with us in chat. Welcome to you both. So, already saving some money on this. Let's talk about saving you some more money with another deal, because Frog God Games and Necromancer Games have joined forces with Humble Bundle for the Swords and Wizardry RPG Mega Bundle. And I've got the lowdown on the savings. Unleash the legends of old school fantasy. For 15 years, Frog God Games and Necromancer Games have been the torchbearers of sword and sorcery adventure, bringing swords and wizardry players hundreds of sprawling dungeons, haunted wildernesses, and perilous towns to explore. Now, for the first time ever, you can claim a colossal treasure trove of over 60 titles, all in PDF form, spanning adventures, campaign settings, monsters, and rule expansions. Whether you're a grizzled dungeon crawling veteran or a new initiate to the OSR, this collection arms you with everything needed to run years of campaigns dripping with danger, discovery, and dark fantasy. But the bundle doesn't stop with only digital loot. At the highest tier, you'll also receive a true collector's prize, Heart of the Razor in hardcover. It is a legendary adventure book nearly out of circulation. Only 500 copies remain, at least they did when this was put together. And once they're gone, they are gone forever. This is your last chance to hold a piece of swords and wizardry history in your hands, straight from the Frog God Vault. Every dollar supports both the publishers who have carried the OSR flame, as well as Child's Play. So you'll get classic adventures, rare treasures, and a seat at the fire with the gods of old school gaming. You can jump aboard for as little as $1. If you want to grab all 62 PDFs, which are on offer, you can do so with a donation of $18 or more. If you want to go all in, score everything plus that hardcover Heart of the Razor, you want to make a minimum donation of $38. And these savings will run through October 4th. So keep in mind, you are looking at 62 PDFs for $18. Crazy good deal here, folks. Once again, Humble Bundle provides us, I almost said presents us, another fantastic money-saving deal. Only website that beats these sometimes is Fanatical. That's it. And Fanatical doesn't have role-playing game deals as often as Humble Bundle. And this is years and years and years of gaming right here. Although I'm kind of curious, because of course, Swords and Wizardry is no longer with Frog God Games. It is, well, Matt Finch opened his own company, Mythmere Games. But I do think they still produce content for Swords and Wizardry. I'm pretty sure. Now, they also do 5e stuff. So some of these adventures and setting books, such as City of Brass, which you're taking a peek at right now, that is also available for 5e. All of these are statted for Swords and Wizardry, which means you can essentially utilize these with pretty much any OSR role-playing game out there. Pretty sweet. Pretty nice. I got to be honest, I'm kind of thinking I might get this. I don't think I'll get the physical book, but I am kind of kicking around, maybe picking this up, because I got to be honest, I don't have anything from Frog God Games except for Swords and Wizardry. That's it. That is all I've got. Pretty cool. Let's wrap up the news. Available in PDF for the Cosmere role-playing game from Brotherwise Games is the Stonewalkers campaign. I've got the skinny. Your path to radiance begins here. An honor blade, the legendary weapon of a herald, has disappeared. Journey across Roshar to pursue a corrupted radiant. Recover the stolen blade and oppose the forces of odium. This campaign-linked adventure for the Cosmere role-playing game takes characters from 1st to 8th level. Along the way, characters must seek fallen heralds, survive the Everstorm, and choose whether to swear radiant oaths. Created in close partnership with Brandon Sanderson and Dan Wells, the story of Stonewalkers reveals new secrets about the history of the Stormlight setting. This adventure requires a copy of the Stormlight Handbook to play. I always get this word right, or wrong, I should say. Canonical, womp, 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 womp. Because the reason is because it's pronounced canon, but if you toss on the ICAL at the end, it changes it up. The canonical storyline written by Brandon Sanderson and Dan Wells, English, Jeff, it's English. Use it. Begins alongside Words of Radiance and ties your character to events that culminate in wind and truth. Come face to face with some of the most powerful beings on Roshar. It's a campaign-linked adventure that takes characters once again from 1st through 8th level. The PDF is available now. It is over at DriveThruRPG. It clocks in at 173 pages. You can grab it for $25. The hardcover is slated for an October 29th release. It is being indicated it is 144 pages. So the PDF might be 144 pages. But there might also be a bunch of handouts that are reproduced, something like that. Anyway, the hardcover comes out October 29th. It's going to have an MSRP of $49.99. Chris Lundgren pointed out that they've got the prior version of Swords and Wizardry. I have reviewed Swords and Wizardry. I want to say it's the complete edition. And then I also reviewed the box set that came out with the little booklets inside. And I like Swords and Wizardry. I like most of the OSR role-playing games that are built off of like OD&D, Basic Expert, AD&E, and so forth. It's just that some of them are, just kind of a rehash. They don't actually bring anything new to the table. Thankfully, the ones I've taken a peek at and I've reviewed over the years, we're trying to do something a little bit different. So very nice. All right. That is it for the news tonight. Of course, I mentioned DriveThruRPG. Don't forget the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you would like to help support the outlet, you can actually do so in a few ways. One of them is actually by utilizing our affiliate code for the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG. And to do so, all you got to do is swing on over to thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And I swear, all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. If you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, there are a couple of other ways that you can help support the outlet. First, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Oh, I needed that. I certainly did. Or you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. You will find links in the show notes, also down in those show notes. And people have asked before, they're kind of like, what are the show notes? So here on YouTube, if you're watching the video on YouTube, the show notes, it's just all the text that's below the video. That it's always like, oh, read more. So you will normally find a link to the publisher of whatever I'm covering If it is a PDF of something that's available from DriveThruRPG, I will leave a link with our affiliate code there. And then there's the PayPal and so on and so forth. But of course, there is an invite link to our Discord server, which is absolutely free for you to come and hang out with us. So by all means, hang with the gang over on Discord. Smoking Pots has joined us in chat. Nice. Welcome aboard. Also want to mention, I always like to give a shout out to our Patreon members during live shows. So big thank you to Gustavo Calvallo, Jason Lawman, Kuval, Kevin R. Smith, Sean O'Donnell, Talzek, Matt W., Dan Webb, GameCat, Pete Stracklich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, Tier 2 DM, as well as Agile Monk and the Madman. Thank you very kindly, everybody. It is much appreciated. It is vastly appreciated. It really, really does. Smoking Pot says they sent me a Facebook message. Don't bother. I do very little on Facebook. The Gaming Gang page on Facebook is, for the most part, just simply like auto posts of the articles that pop up and, videos and things like that pop up on the gaminggang.com. If you need to get a hold of me, if you want to ask me a question or whatever, send an email to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com. That way, I'll get it. I get inundated with tons of trash on Facebook. So I don't even usually look at the messages. I just clear them out. Just so you know. So yes, by all means, just shoot me an email. I'll ignore it, but no, I'm kidding. I'll respond to it. All right, so tonight we're going to be diving on in. We're going to be taking a look at Untamed Worlds, which is actually a little heftier than most of the Osprey Games role-playing games. Usually they clock in about 220 page counts. At least I seem to recall that's about it. This is like 288. Well. So we're going to take a peek at this in just a few moments. A couple of things I wanted to mention. First of all, I went and had my ultrasound on my neck for my thyroid yesterday. Have no idea. Haven't heard anything. So once I do find something out, I will let you know. So who knows? But I may have mentioned this. I think I mentioned this last week. But then again, the test results may come in later. May come in on Friday. So I take this huge dosage of this medication for my thyroid. And they'll do blood work and it'll be like, oh yeah, hey, it's in the good range. And then next time I go and it's like, oh, it's crazy high. And then the next time it'll be like, okay, it's pretty much high normal range. And then it'll be like, it's crazy high. It'll be so high. I've actually had my doctor ask me, are you still taking your medication? And I'm like, yeah. I actually get up earlier than normal, or I normally would, because I have to take it on an empty stomach. So I actually take it and I go back to bed. What a convenience that is, eh? So anyway, so I went and saw an endocrinologist, which I mentioned, and she had the regular blood work done, and she said, hey, I'm going to have some additional blood work, which we normally don't just do, but I guess it's like some really important factors. Like these other like results aren't as important as these, which I thought was kind of weird. Because like, why am I not doing that blood work all the time. So anyway, so it came back. Dead center normal. Like, okay. All righty. Kevin King's with us in chat, says, looks like Osprey beat Gaska's Planet of the Apes to press with their take. These are animals that are out in space. So it does not, well, maybe some of it takes place on Earth. But as far as my understanding, and of course, we're going to take a first look at this so we'll get a better feel. I don't think it's exactly the same as Planet of the Apes. I thought Planet of the Apes is out. I thought that was already out. Mike says getting old is for the birds. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Other thing I wanted to mention, you may have noticed a couple of reviews, including my review of the Dungeons and Dragons Heroes of the Borderlands starter set. And you may not be able to see it too well. This morning, I shared my Castles and Crusades starter set review as well. Kevin King says the Planet of the Apes Kickstarter is being fulfilled. It's not available for purchase yet. Cool. I'm going to take a peek to see if they are up at Gamehole Con. Magnetic Press Play, I want to say, is part of Magnetic. And, I chatted with them last year, and that's how I got the playtest, which they were only giving out to people who played in their playtest adventure, but they were kind enough to give me a copy of it, and I shared some coverage. We did a first look video of it, and it looked great. And the adventure that they were running, they told me about what was going on in it, and I was like, man, this sounds awesome. So I'm thinking Planet of the Apes is pretty cool. So maybe I'll have an opportunity to chat with them. It does look like I'm going to be flying solo up to Gamehole Con, because I talked to Elliot. Elliot said, nah, because I'm going to go up on, well, I was going to go Wednesday. I think I'm going to just go on Thursday. So I'm going to drop my first day because it starts on Thursday. But I like to get to conventions a day early so I can check in. I don't have to run all over the place, stuff like that. But I think I'll drop the Wednesday, just go Thursday through probably Sunday. But Elliot would have to take the train, and it's like a 3-hour train ride. And I told him, I said, yeah, I'll pick you up at the train station in Madison, and I'll drive you home. I'll drop you off at home. It's just you would have to take the train up. It's like, nah. And my nephew Cameron, as I mentioned to Elliot, and I love my nephew, don't get me wrong, but sometimes he makes me think that he doesn't realize that people are smart. So, as an example, with his job, he's always like, well, like, hey, you want to go to Gen Con with us? Do you want to go wherever, different conventions and stuff? And he'll kind of be like, yeah, I want to go. And then, well, I got to wait until my schedule comes out and, see what happens, blah, blah, blah. And it's always like, no, I can't make it. I can't go. Yet he can make plans to do other things, like go on trips to other places. And it's not like, oh, he can make it months in advance. So it's like, It's kind of funny because he always pulls this. And I one of these days, I'm just going to say, hey, You do realize I'm not an idiot, right? All right. Semper Buffo says they got all their stuff for Planet of the Apes. I'm jealous. The hell with you, man. That's it. I'm done with this stream. Everybody's rubbing it in my face that they got Planet of the Apes. DB says that, isn't it E.C. Gaska wrote a pretty good book called Terror on the Planet of the Apes. Bear Beard is joining us tonight. Welcome aboard. Last thing. So talking about the starter set. Before we got into the adventures, if you haven't watched the review, you really should take a peek at it. Anyway, I thought the adventures in it are pretty bland. And I mentioned that. I talk about it in the review. And I have to get a kick out of some of the people who just lurk online. And it's sort of, some of their comments make me wonder, like, do people have lives? So it'll go from, I'm a shill for Wizards of the Coast. Somebody had posted something along the lines of, I have no time for you or Wizards of the Coast. And it's like, is this a Dungeons and Dragons channel? No. It's like, oh, okay, so I'm sharing a review of something that a lot of people are going to be very curious about. And it's like, okay, would you rather just have the true shills out there share reviews? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge reviews. Oh, it's the greatest thing. This is the greatest fantasy role-playing game I've ever played until I play the next fantasy role-playing game, or outlets that are built on Dungeons and Dragons and their survival depends on Dungeons and Dragons, and they will break up a review video into multiple videos so they can squeeze every last monetization nickel out of YouTube. People rather have that. And then the very next comment was someone who's, because I gave it an 8 out of 10. I know. You're sitting there. I'm ruining it for you. I'm spoiling it for you. Definitely, if you're curious about the starter set at all, even if you don't want to buy it, take a peek. Because I also comment on the current state, as I see it, of Dungeons and Dragons and the past few years of Dungeons and Dragons. So anyway, I'd even mentioned before we got into the adventures, if that was what was in the box, it had been a 10 out of 10 until everything I talked about beforehand, the playbook, the tokens, the class boards, all of it, right? So I'm like 10 out of 10. And then I talked about the adventures, which brought the score down. So this commenter said something like, oh, okay, 10 out of 10, but the score is lowered because of your bias. Got it. It's like, my bias? I'm a reviewer, you idiot. It's not a bias. I'm like, and I commented back, I said something about, oh, so you're a troll who's going to argue about a review for something you haven't even laid eyes on. Got it. It's like, what the hell? Lord Cost 2000 is with us tonight. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, gang. And then, of course, the silent majority just sits there and goes, I like that video. It's like, okay. All right. Tonight, we're going to dive on in. We are going to, where did I put the book as I was talking? Take a peek at Untamed Worlds from Osprey Games. Just a few moments, as Beard says, haters gonna hate. Oh, yeah, I know that one. Anyway, so we're going to take a look at Untamed Worlds in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat. Taste tantalizing hot tamales.
How do you make a picture of a perfect hamburger? Start with the finest grade of government-inspected beef. Take it sizzling hot from the griddle and serve it up on an oven-fresh bun. For the finishing touches, add mustard, ketchup, relish, or the works. Makes your mouth water, doesn't it? Yes, that picture-perfect hamburger is waiting for you right now at your refreshment center. There's time to pick up enough for everyone.
I see you don't drink Wilkins instant coffee.
What about my future?
I hate to tell you, but you don't have a future.
As America grew along the new frontier, many great legends were told.
Dad!
But no legend was greater than the one that surrounded a man of mystery, a man who began as John Reed, orphaned in an outlaw raid, raised by Indians, and witness to his brother's murder. He made a bond that lasted a lifetime.
I swear to you, Dad, there will be justice in the West.
For he rode to fame
To this, my brother,
with the mark of a silver bullet
I pledge my life.
and a black mask across his face. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. His trusted Indian companion, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains, led the fight for law and order. Now the truth is told, the mask is lifted, and the man is revealed in the legend of the Lone Ranger.
Who is that masked man?
I've always wondered why we've never had a good Lone Ranger movie. I don't think it would be that difficult, especially if you focused on the original 2 episodes of the radio show. The ambush and then the revenge. You know, maybe make it a little grittier. I'm not, not saying that I'd do a Sin City of like the Lone Ranger or something. I don't know. Kunfasa says they tried with Depp. Yeah, but I couldn't even get through that movie. That was one of the rare movies I just said, I can't handle this. It was like, and I mean, Johnny Depp's fine, but his performance in that was just god awful. I don't know whose idea it was to cast him, but anyway, like I said, I'm just surprised that we've never gotten a really good Lone Ranger movie. It's not that hard. DB says there's a good serial from the 30s. Nice. The radio show's not bad. I will admit I would rather, if I'm listening to old time radio and it's a Western, I will certainly go to Gunsmoke way before I'll listen to old Lone Rangers. But yeah, I mean, it was all right. It's okay. When it first started off, it wasn't so kidified. Just like the Adventures of Superman on the radio. Not bad. He took on the Ku Klux Klan. That was a big storyline for a few weeks. Because it was, I think, if I remember right, it's 15 minutes, 5 days a week that they broadcast The Adventures of Superman. All right, so tonight we are going to dive on in. We're going to take a first look at Untamed Worlds from Osprey Games. This is written by Jack Norris and illustrated by Logan Stahl. The 288-page hardcover is arriving on September 18th, so a couple of days out. It's going to carry an MSRP of $35. I will take a guess that the PDF will be available over at DriveThruRPG for $26.50. That is normally how they put together the digital pricing for the Osprey Games role-playing game books. And of course, over at Osprey, you can get I want to say it's EPUB and Mobi formats, which would be $26.50 as well. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Untamed Worlds. Very nice. Before we dive on in, do want to mention that the fine folks over at Osprey Games were kind enough to send along this review copy. You may remember I used to share a lot of coverage of the Osprey Games releases, particularly their role-playing games and some of their miniatures games that would come out. And then all of a sudden, nothing. Well, it was one of those situations where the marketing person at Osprey Games moved on someplace else. And you know what happens when we see that? So, but I reached out and hopefully we get things back on track with Osprey Games. We're also not going to look at each and every page of this book. And I don't know if there's an adventure in here or not, but as a player, keep that in mind. We might see some spoilers for any sort of adventure in here. All right, taking a look at the back here. Welcome to space, the last great wilderness. While humanity has reached the stars, most humans live on Earth and other developed worlds, relying on the brave or desperate few to tame the dangerous new frontier. After disastrous experiments with human and AI operatives, the collected nations and megacorporations of Earth turn to the animal kingdom genetically modifying and enhancing various species to protect their off-world interests. As humanity expands its reach into untamed space, the elite, if expendable, animals of the United Expeditionary Force are the tip of the spear. Untamed Worlds is a military science fiction role-playing game of anthropomorphic action in which dog-faced soldiers, guerrilla commandos, chameleon snipers, octopus gunslingers, and other uplifted animals fight to defend a humanity that looks down on them. The 2d6-based system is simple but dynamic, with success and failure constantly generating new tactical options for players to exploit and challenges to which they must adapt. Whether pacifying alien threats and rebel factions, hunting down rogue AIs, or exploring the unknown, it's never a dull day in the UEF. Sweet. All right. First thing we're going to do is, well, that's our credits page. I was going to say, well, stop, take a peek at the credits page. I think that's, yeah, that is it. That's our credit page. Okay, if you're curious, paper stock, very, very nice. We do have a stitched binding here as well. So we've got our introduction, then we've got the Untamed Worlds, playing the game, character creation, gear, vehicles, advancement. Looks like we start moving into the Game Master section. Running Untamed Worlds, enemies, known space. Does not appear that there is an introductory adventure. Okay, elephant in the room, and we're not talking about an uplifted elephant in the room. If you followed the Gaming Gang and you've seen the coverage we've done of Osprey Games in the past, they aren't famous for supporting all of their lines. And that is what holds a lot of people back from picking up a lot of the role-playing games from Osprey Games. So I'm kind of curious if anything is in the pipeline for this. And I know there are game masters and players out there, especially game masters, are like, no, I don't need anything, published. I'll just create my own stuff. And that's fantastic. But the reality is the vast majority of game masters out there don't have the time to create their own adventures, build them from the ground up. Let's see. So what is Untamed Worlds about, and what are the player characters in the game world? Untamed Worlds is set in a fictional future where humanity is expanded into space, but without the usual spirit of discovery and individualism seen in more optimistic science fiction. Instead, humanity settled the stars using servants, subordinates, and creations of science. While most humans live on Earth and other well-developed and comfortable locales, their proxies settle, expand, explore, and develop more uncomfortable and dangerous places. Frontier life is dangerous, and many threats lurk on alien worlds or in the cold darkness of space. Humans who live on the fringe of civilization are often poor or otherwise marginalized, lacking the ability to protect themselves from many of the galaxy's dangers. This is where the player characters come in. In Untamed Worlds, players portray genetically modified animals and the occasional indentured human undesirable, charged with exploring strange worlds, protecting human interests, and confronting various dangers so humanity doesn't have to. DB mentions that they love Hard City. I liked Hard City a lot too. And Tomorrow City, I'm trying to remember if I don't think I got Tomorrow City. But they'd like to see some adventures or expansions. Jackals, from time to time, will see a book come out. I think there are now 3, maybe 4 for Jackals. That is probably, as far as role-playing games go, Now, of course, Stargrave, Frostgrave, those are supported pretty well. But as far as the role-playing games go, I think it is Jackals, which is the best supported of the Osprey games. And it's not like these role-playing games are crap. That's the thing. They're good. I mean, there's been some that were ho-hum. Romance of the hell? It's the one where it's like it's Arthurian Dungeons and Dragons. Romance of the Kingdom or something like that. That one I did not care for. I just thought it was too similar to just, it was built off 5e. All right, what type of science fiction is this? You notice I say science fiction. I don't say sci-fi very often. Because the reality is, and I know my best friend Elliot Miller will argue with me about this, which is fine. But most science fiction fans, fanatics, don't like the term sci-fi. It's too dismissive. And I get it. It's like, yeah, well, it's just, it's easier to just say sci-fi than science fiction all the time. But still, most science fiction authors don't like the genre referred to as sci-fi either. Now, that may have changed. Kuhnfoss says Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi sci-fi. On Sci-Fi, Untamed Worlds rests somewhere in the middle of the space opera and military science fiction genres. Player characters are, by and large, talking animals, space commandos who undertake various exciting and dangerous missions on strange new worlds. The technology and science in the setting is there to enable these stories, and not the other way around. Untamed Worlds presents a world that's intended to fit alongside the offerings of various big-budget movies, television shows, and video games. It's more Halo than 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think that would go for a vast number of science fiction IPs. Why so serious? Quick look at Untamed Worlds, its themes, certain setting elements, and the fact combat can get deadly at times might suggest this game is a serious, hard-hearted take on politics and social issues. I wouldn't think so. Oh my gosh, I was just about to say, I'm going to take a stab that this is probably relatively satirical. I guess so. Basically a real downer. That's an understandable first impression, especially if one ignores all the stuff with bunnies with guns and tiger people fighting space bugs. That's not what Untamed Worlds is intended for. No, it is meant to be a rollicking military science fiction game where player characters are hard-charging heroes and cunning, I've got a cunning plan, me lord. Super commandos fighting for freedom. Of course, sometimes that freedom is theirs. The cost may be high. These factors keep Untamed Worlds out of the realm of pure funny animal content and more in the realm of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. Yeah, nice. Okay, very cool. Mixed with the Dirty Dozen and Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. It is an intentional mashup possessing some serious military and action movie themes, but it's also meant to be fun, fast, and wild. The primal rule. Before moving on to the rest of the book, there's one rule worth keeping in mind throughout. Untamed Worlds and the Lucky 7 system are designed to allow players and game masters to turn every roll into dramatic and fun situations, creating new challenges and victories as play progresses. The system has various terms such as task, permissions, and effect that help guide play. These are all important, but they're all based around one essential rule. The game should make sense and be enjoyable to everyone involved. Some might argue that's 2 rules, but in either case, both concepts are equally important and need to work together. Don't force players to roll the dice when logically their characters can just handle the situation. There'll be enough chaos and unexpected results to create interesting developments. Is this some of our... Oh, here's our inspirations. Babylon 5. I know we got Babylon 5 fans out there. DuckTales, Elephant Men. I remember that comic. Guardians of the Galaxy. Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. Already mentioned that. Planet of the Apes. Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, Starship Troopers. I figured the Starship Troopers. The Rat Patrol. That's reaching back. I'm sure there's a few people watching right now who will not know what the Rat Patrol was. Watership Down. Oh, that's a fun family flick. DB says Black Sad is an amazing comic for anyone who's into comics. Hellboy's great. Another one which most people are familiar with the movies, not necessarily the comics. All right, let's keep going here. So this is about the Untamed Worlds and the UEF, the United Expeditionary Force, which the player characters belong to. And they work for the UISA, the United Intersystems Alliance. So they represent numerous planets run by various member nations. The United Expeditionary Force, or UEF, is a unified paramilitary agency operating under a mandate from both the UISA and various local authorities in the Untamed Worlds. Practically speaking, the UEF was designed to do an important but dangerous and unglamorous job the primary operations force and UISA member militaries didn't want. Deal with problems in the Untamed Worlds and keep things relatively safe and profitable out there. I'm sure that profitable aspect's a big deal. The stated goal of the UEF, as per its U.S., I keep wanting to say USA because it looks like USA sitting there. UISA charter is to protect and serve humanity and its interests in the outer regions of known space, defending citizens and legitimate enterprises, enabling a safe environment for development and exploration. So we're getting information about the enlisted ranks, NCOs, officers. It's a camel. Should have a cigarette dangling from his mouth. That's what he's missing. The enemies in the Untamed Worlds, we got dissidents, Church of Hizu, Frontier Laborers Association. Oh, are they strike breakers? Is that how this works? Chris Leonard is asking, what was the name of the TV series where the U.S. Marines were in space? They never finished the series. Chris Leonard says, Rat Patrol. I hear about it all the time from military grognards. I don't know. It was just a World War II TV show with the Brits and some Americans, if I seem to remember correctly, going after, Rommel's desert rats. It was not a show I actually watched. I watched a few episodes, probably in my early teens. I was bored out of my mind. So I was like, okay. I just probably caught a couple of bad ones. So we got pirates, aliens. There you go, bugs for a bug hunt. As I'm taking a peek here, I'm kind of thinking to myself, this would probably be a role-playing game that, depending on how the mechanics are, which we're going to get into in a little bit, you could probably lift some adventures from other role-playing games to utilize, and I would say probably like Alien. That would be a good one. Just, replace the Marines with the UEF and maybe kind of lighten the tone a little bit. But yeah, it would give you a nice skeleton to work with. So we get a timeline. A sniper there. All right, playing the game. Now we're going to find out how this works. Untamed Worlds uses a newly designed system for the game called the Lucky 7 system. The core mechanic for Lucky 7 combines a character's abilities, situational modifiers, and a dice roll involving the sum of 2 6-sided dice. Any result of 7 or more is good with exceptional rolls, generating good effects. Rolling 6 or under is not as good, generating bad effects. Usually only the players roll dice for their characters. The GM determines modifiers and adjudicates results. Well, many tabletop role-playing games use similar methods to determine success. Yep. Many role-playing games utilize similar methods to determine sex. Yeah, okay, Jeff. I was jumping to the cess part for some strange reason. Anyway, to determine success and failure in various situations. Untamed Worlds is built around a principle worth explaining. Dice rolls generate good effects so the characters can do interesting, exciting, and inspiring things. They generate bad effects so characters can experience interesting, challenging, and motivating setbacks. This includes succeeding or failing at tasks, but that's only part. Effects also represent momentum, environmental conditions, interesting discoveries, compelling complications, and other results. When a player picks up the die so their character can do something, they are creating a point in play where things can change, diverge, or escalate. Succeed or fail, the results will be interesting. This philosophy means that when an action isn't going to generate engaging or exciting outcomes, don't roll for it. Even if the character could theoretically fail, skip it. If that failure does not create potentially entertaining outcomes, describe what happens, move on. So we have advantage and disadvantage. So you're going to have additional 6-sided dice you get to roll. So it looks like it would be 3 rather than the 2. But if there were multiple situations for advantage and disadvantage, you're going to add a +2 bonus or a -2 penalty for every additional instance. So once they have 3 dice, that's it. No more. Chris Lundgren's asking, can you play humans at all in this game? Like, remember, I was gone for 25 minutes helping my mom. Chris is always rolling out the excuses why he wasn't paying attention to the video. Yeah, you can. It was just something that I ran across as we were kind of reading through some of this. Yes, there are some optional, less than desirable humans, I guess. So we've got turns, action points. Each turn, a character gets a number of action points to use. For each action a character wants to attempt, they spend APs. Most actions take 1 AP to perform, but some are free, and others take more, cost 2 or more. If an action takes more APs than a character has, it needs to be performed over several rounds. That's what I would expect. By default, all characters have 2 APs a turn. Weak, wounded, impaired, or unimportant characters may have 1 AP a turn, while elite or exceptionally fast and dangerous characters can have 3 or more action points. Some of those actions: aim, attack, full evade, ready, reload, talk, treat, use. Then we have tasks. When a character wants to do something during play where the outcome is uncertain and the effects of success or failure are interesting, they make a die roll known as a task check, or simply task. Tasks are rated with a difficulty. To make a task check, roll 2d6, apply the following modifiers. Add a relevant skill, such as marksmanship for a ranged attack. Add any situational bonuses, such as having exceptional equipment, superior positioning, etc. The GM usually assigns these bonuses as part of their responsibilities during play. Subtract the difficulty of the task. Subtract any situational penalties, such as having damaged equipment, terrible positioning, etc. If the result is 7 or greater, the character succeeds. If it's 6 or under, they fail. And then we've got some ranks of difficulty. So a 9 or higher is a hellish difficulty. So we've got good effects, bad effects, momentum. Sometimes a task generates effect beyond what realistically is required. Other times, players or GMs want to keep things moving forward in a particular way rather than concentrating on a single massively good or bad result. This is where momentum comes in. Momentum is a pool of resources PCs and GMs can use to alter task difficulty. PCs have their own collective pool of momentum, while the GM has a pool to represent antagonists and hazardous conditions. So PCs can spend 1 momentum to add a +1 bonus to their own task or apply a -1 penalty to a task targeting them. So it looks like some of our lesser foes are put together as mobs. Hits and damage. So we've got armor. So we have armor rank, which soaks damage, it looks like. Death and stabilizations. Last stand. A character who is down can try to make a last stand. They attempt a task check against a difficulty of 0 with no modifications. Success means they can struggle to their feet for 1 desperate act. They gain 1 action point for the next turn. They can make 0 action point actions as well. Failing the last stand task means you can't make any more for the rest of the scene. However, as long as the character keeps succeeding at last stand task checks, they can soldier on. Successful last stand task checks can be repeated on your next turn, but the difficulty increased by 2 each additional check. Characters may spend good effects from last stand tasks on gaining momentum to help make their last stand truly heroic. That's kind of wild. Reading Aid is joining us in chat. Welcome aboard. Then we have recovery. I gotta say, this looks pretty interesting. Drugs and toxins. Burn damage. Falling. Get an example of play. Now we're going to get into our character creation. Step 1, pick your heritage. So they're either human or a genetically altered animal. Heritages give permissions based on the logical benefits of being a 350 kilogram gorilla man or a hyper intelligent octopus. Pick one of the following heritages to begin creating a character. See what we've got. And it says create your own heritages as well. Amphibian, bat, bird. A cetacean. Echidna. Oh, there's like spiny, like anteaters. Oh my God. Okay. I'm like, wait, what the hell is that? The elephant in the room is in the room right there. So hippo, hyena, marsupial, mucilid, octopus, pinniped, primate, rhino. Let's take a peek at the rhino here. An example of an animal saved by the uplift process. Rhinoceroses battled at the edge of extinction for centuries until their utility as uplifted soldiers encouraged the creation of numerous preserves. Tough and strong, they are a favorite heritage for shock troops and frontline fighters. Like elephants, rhino uplifts are all large and powerful. Even the Sumatran pygmy rhino weighs nearly a ton. So we've got skills, increase athletics and CQB by 1. Pick 2 skills increased by 1 from the following: command, CQB, demolitions, and survival. Tricks, select biggin and 1 other trick from the following: armored hide, charger, natural weapons, which would be the horn, strong and tough. Kevin King says, permissions seem to be a grab bag of special abilities such as feats, aspects, and species abilities. Right here, we got permissions. Naturally big, tough, strong, and durable. They also possess an excellent sense of smell. So there you go, right there. Pretty concise, pretty to the point. Got the rodent, shark, ungulate, ursine, and xenarthra, sloths, armadillos, or anteaters. No, we just had an anteater before. Oh, it was spined anteater. Okay, backgrounds: fostered, farm, feral. There's more, but I'm skipping pages. Dissident, volunteer. Pick your specialties: covert operations, communications, engineer, explosives, gunnery, infantry, instruction, intelligence, leader, medical, ranger, scout, sniper, space operations, special operations, and vehicle operations. Quite a bit there. That's quite a bit. Desi Trekkie says they're playing a kangaroo with an octopus living in their pouch. Why don't you just take the eye creature from Alien Earth with you? I think that'd be wild. For those of you out there who are watching Alien Earth, maybe you're not up to speed yet. I have not watched tonight's episode, so I will point that out. Episode 5. Wow. That was like, holy cow. That was watching an alien movie. In fact, I heard people online commenting that it was the best alien movie in 37 years or something like that. I was like, man, oh man. Kevin King says definitely more crunch than Hard City, but it doesn't look like we've got tons of crunch because it all kind of boils down to rolling your 6-sided dice and getting 7 or higher. And of course, there's various different ways to modify those dice, which might become tricky for some folks, but it does look like, as far as just the rules of the game, if you have some experience with role-playing games, doesn't look like this is going to be difficult at all to wrap your head around. So you've got birth names, chosen names, nicknames, call sign, ranks. It says, don't remind them. The UEF uses the same basic ranking system as the regular primary operations force military and most national and private militaries. The only major difference is the replacement of the regular military master sergeant rank with the UEF command sergeant rank. It says this is due to unease at allowing uplifts to possess a rank, alluding to a term traditionally used to describe the owner of terrestrial animals indentured servants, or slaves. That would be the master part. Kevin King says, looks like you can play his buddy. Yeah, where's the cockatiel? So here we've got our skills. Athletics, command, close quarters battle is the CQB. Demolitions, espionage, hacker, marksmanship, mechanic, medic, pilot, recon, science, and survival. I would have thought that we would maybe have some more social sort of skills here. So we've got tricks. These are those special feats. Get an example of character generation. Get some sample PCs. Now we'll get into our gear. Before getting into all the shiny toys themselves, it's important to understand how gear works in Untamed Worlds. This section covers permissions, the primary advantage in play to having and using gear. It also covers basic gear, exceptional gear, and how weapons and armor generally work in play. Mechanically, most gear in Untamed Worlds grants permissions. If you want to shoot someone, you need something that shoots. Need to survive in space? You need to be wearing something that protects its user from vacuum, intense cold, and the hazards of the void. Gear permissions function the same as other permissions in the game. They let you do something and negate the need for certain tests, but don't provide other advantages. All right, so we've got our basic gear. Talking about ammo, armor. I think we already saw that the armor rating is how much damage it absorbs. Explosives. Special gear. The UEF jetpack. Oh, that's nice. I will say I'm surprised that we don't have more art. I would have expected a little more art. But it also means that we're getting quite a lot of content. So there we go. There's one of our humans. So this is our vehicle information here. I would not think we have like space combat rules simply because from what it seems here, the player characters are essentially grunts. So we've got experience, we've got advancement. So your advances include learning a new trick, learning a second new trick, learning a third and final trick. Increase 3 skills by 1. Increase 1 skill by 2 and 1 by 1, or increase 1 skill by 3. That's when you accumulate 10 experience. You gain an advance. It says once a character has earned all possible advancements, they become a veteran. They gain 1 additional action point. So once they become a veteran, they stop gaining advances normally. So it says for every 10 experience points they gain as a veteran, they add 1 to their group's momentum pool at the start of a session. Okay. So we're not going to see any of these characters become demigods. So I think we are in our Game Master. Yes, this is the Game Master section. Untamed Worlds has 2 structures a game or a campaign follows. The beginning of the campaign, or for most one-shots or short series, play follows a mission-based model. In this model, PCs are given missions to complete by their superiors, and they use their wits and abilities to accomplish mission goals. This structure can continue for as long as everyone's having fun and the PCs feel they are on the right path. However, things change at some point. The PCs discover reasons they may not wish to simply execute mission goals on behalf of their superiors. At this point, play shifts to an objective-based model. The PCs set their own objectives based on the situations they find themselves in and advance from there. This structure is more proactive and player-oriented, but it requires more player investment and strategic thinking. Why not just start with objectives? Some readers may wonder why play doesn't simply start with the PCs rebelling against their superiors, trying to undermine their creators, or otherwise running things as they want. Of course, GMs and players can do this, but there's a reason why it's not the default for Untamed Worlds. It's better if you earn it. That I can understand. Talking about different tone. They were expendable. In Harm's Way, The Great Escape, Where Eagles Dare, Go for Broke. Using the Rules. And number 3 was Don't Overdo It. Just some examples of using the skills. Oh, different mission types. So assault, escort, retrieval, salvage training. You got downtime, rewards, random mission generator. And then we get some missions, some example missions. There we go. So that's cool. Operation Babysitter, Operation Easter Basket. So it looks like quite a few of these. In a way, this is almost presented like a miniatures game, like a skirmish miniatures game. So we've got our enemies. So this is going to be a bit of our bestiary here. Sadly, no artwork. So we have known space. So I guess this is going to be the Game Master's take on known space. Confasa says it would have been cool for a Star Fox role-playing game. I got to say, this does look pretty cool. Very rarely do we actually take a peek at a role-playing game release, and I'll sit there and say, oh, this looks awful. Now, of course, once I read it and do a review, well, you know, sometimes. In fact, there is something that I have to reach out to its author to see if they want me to do a review or not, because the reality is it's going to get about a 6 out of 10, like maybe like 5.5 out of 10. And I don't think the author would want that. And that's one of the things I tend to do with really small publishers. I don't like, you know, I almost said stabbing people in the back, but that's not stabbing anybody in the back. I don't like taking food out of anybody's mouth, I guess I will say. All right. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Untamed Worlds from Osprey Games. Like I said, this looks pretty interesting. And even though I mentioned kind of light on the artwork, that does mean that we're getting content rather than art, which is I'm fine with, not a problem. So this is arriving in stores on September 18th. It's probably already sitting in their back rooms. It is a 288-page hardcover. Carries an MSRP of $35. The PDF should be out the same day over at Drive-Thru RPG, or a few days later. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. If you want the EPUB or Mobi version, you can get those from Osprey Games. But if you want to get the PDF, by all means, please utilize our affiliate link to do so if you're going to pop over to Drive-Thru RPG. All right, and of course, I will have a review of Untamed Worlds in the not too distant future. And once again, nice to see an Osprey Games release again. Been a while since we took a peek at one. About a year? I think it's about a year or so. All right. So if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company while I'm sharing the news or flipping on through a role-playing game book or unboxing a board game, what have you. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,300 videos here on the channel. It really does mean a lot to me. I got a few things we're going to be taking a peek at the rest of the week. Tomorrow, we're going to take a look at Tales of the Valiant's Monster Vault 2 from my friends over at Cobalt Press. So that is on tomorrow's show. I have a package in transit from Mongoose Publishing, which is supposed to include, let's see, I want to say it's got High Guard for Traveler. I think it's got the equipment catalog. I forget what the exact title of it is for Traveler. It's got the first adventure collection for Paranoia, and it's got the core rule book for 2300 AD. If that shows up, I will well, I know it's going to show up. If it shows up in time, I'm going to share a first look at 2300 AD on Thursday's show, because I know there are people out there kind of curious about it. It's kind of like, is it Traveler? Is it not Traveler? Is it set in the Traveler universe? So we'll find out. We'll take a peek. Anyway, just letting you know what is on the horizon. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as today's review of the Castles and Crusades starter set from my friends at Trollord Games. If you're curious about Castles and Crusades, give it a peek. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.